following program contains scenes and language of a frank and explicit nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
How many heartbeats are left? We only get so many in a lifetime, and with each rhythmic pulse, we move closer to the moment which will be our last. We try not to think about it. We squander the minutes until one day, time runs out. Just like that, the heart stops. As precious as each beat is, should a government have the right to extinguish it? Capital punishment is the premeditated and planned taking of human life by a government in response to a crime committed by that legally convicted person. We call ourselves civilized. Consider ourselves leaders of the modern world. We are the nation encouraging human rights for global citizens. Yet we are the last democratic nation to abolish the death penalty. We legally murder human beings. On death certificates of prisoners executed by the state, the cause of death is listed as homicide. We are murderers.
I don't want to go.
Is this our shining example to the world?
We're back now with a surprising statistic. 2011 is ending with the lowest number of death sentences handed out by juries since capital punishment was reinstated in the U.S. 35 years ago. Opponents of the death penalty say Americans are turning away from it, worried that the justice system sometimes gets it wrong. We get the story tonight from our justice correspondent, Pete Williams.
An emotional scene outside an Arkansas courthouse as three men walk to freedom after 18 years in prison. One of them on death row, all of them wrongly convicted of murder. A similar scene in Illinois. Ronald Kitchen released after spending 21 years in prison, 13 on death row.
It really haven't hit me yet. It's like surreal.
As these scenes are repeated, say opponents of the death penalty, with DNA evidence often making the difference, jurors have become less willing to impose the ultimate punishment. This year brought 78 death sentences nationwide, the smallest number since 1976.
It was indicative of a concern among the public, among the jurors, that the death penalty can't be trusted, that you might make a mistake and find out information 5-10 years from now that would make you think twice.
This year also saw fewer executions, 43 in all, down from a high of 98 12 years ago. Even in Texas, which often has the most in the country, just 13 executions this year, about half of last year's total. Illinois this year took the death penalty off the books entirely. In Oregon, Governor John Kitzhaber barred executions as long as he's in office, calling them morally wrong.
I refuse to be part of a compromised and inequitable system any longer.
3 more states, California, Maryland, and Connecticut, may consider repealing capital punishment next year. And the latest Gallup poll finds that while 61% of Americans say they favor the death penalty, that's the least support since the mid-1970s. Even so, 34 states retain the death penalty. Supporters say it's imposed less often, not because jurors think it's unfair, but because a sentence of life without parole doesn't invite decades of legal appeals. Another factor, they say, violent crime is down.
It's not that society no longer supports the death penalty. It's the fact that there are just fewer murders in the United States, by almost 50%. And that's good news.
Whatever the reasons, the numbers show that while the death penalty in America remains an option, its heyday is in the past. Pete Williams, NBC News, Washington.